Brace yourself! Vandalize! Raid!
How's it going, folks? Welcome to a probably very unexpected video. It's really out of the blue, but this is something that I've actually been wanting to make ever since... God, how long now? Years, at least. There's a very specific friend of mine that I told, hey, I'm thinking of making a video about the Trails franchise, and it's been literal years ever since I said that to him, and we both still remember that. So here's the thing. I was supposed to make another video. There's a funny little story. So on my Discord recently, I was asking people, like, hey, do you guys want to see, like, this or that or that or that? Now, the most voted option was a long-form Yakuza video, but because that video would actually benefit from waiting until Pirate Yakuza comes out, I said, okay, I'm probably gonna put that away for now, and just wait until that game comes out so I can actually add even more to this long-form video that I'm making for Yakuza. So the second most voted option was a long-form video for something that is not Yakuza related. So, I figured, you know what? Maybe this is my time to actually make that Trails video that I've been meaning to make for so long. And I want to apologize for one thing in advance. I actually, even now as I'm, recording this, I am not sure how much editing I'm going to do on this video. Because I have a feeling if I were to make this video, like, edited, scripted on top of all of that, it would take a very long time. Like, long enough for me to probably get sidetracked into other projects and start working on those. And then forget about this one again for like multiple years. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going into this, no script, nothing like that. I'm just going to let my heart do the speaking, and we'll see where we go from there. So, I will divide this video into two sections just to, get this out there. This franchise that we're talking about today is a very, very, very long franchise. And trying to talk about it without any kind of spoiler is like the most tantalizing experience ever known to man. And it's very difficult, so just take my word for it. But, having said that, I will attempt to talk about this series without spoilers at the beginning so that, new people, newcomers to, the Trails franchise, anyone that might be interested, or you just want to hear me, like, ramble about it without, getting yourself spoiled in case you want to try it out. You're gonna want to hear this part. But yeah, again, with a franchise like this, there's only so much I can say without any spoilers, so it's really difficult. But again, it is possible. So, I don't know what I'm gonna make the title just yet, but it probably will be something that sounds outrageous, but true at the same time. Like, some people tell me, oh, Leon, you clickbait with the titles. But no, listen, there is some truth to all of the titles, okay? I don't know, is it like the JRPG that ruined others for me, or is it like... the franchise that I love more than Yakuza? Something like that, probably, I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna name it something like that because it really is true. This franchise, the Trails franchise, once upon a time, I think I would confidently tell you that I love this franchise more than Yakuza. Like, it is really, really, really special. But yeah, anyway, let's get all of this out of the way for now. And let's start with the introductions, like no spoilers, nothing. So, some of you guys might have seen me. Actually, wait, before that, I want to give a small shout out to a channel called King Recon. I saw him rambling about his journey of the Trails franchise, and honestly, like, it really inspired me to make my own take on this kind of thing. He had such, like, pure, unadulterated passion when he was talking about his journey. It just... I don't know, it did something to me, man. Seeing somebody, like, excited like a kid again for, video games, I think just really inspired me to, hurry the hell up and make this video. And so here I am, like, I'm even doing it similar to how he is, where there's not much editing. So this aged super horribly because here I am editing the heck out of this video, and I even recorded some footage of some of the games already, so yeah. And it's just like me really rambling about how much I love this franchise, so this might not be a video for everybody, but if you're here to listen to somebody rambling about something they're passionate about, well, you've come to the right place, because I'm really, really passionate about the Trails franchise, or the Legend of Heroes franchise.
Engaging skill.
With that out of the way, now we can actually begin talking about trails. So, no spoilers first, of course. This is the no spoilers section. Some of you on the channel, I'm sure, might have heard me talking about this franchise at some point. The Trails, or the Legend of Heroes franchise. Like, you might have seen me talk about it, like, on streams, maybe on videos, but I think it's, like, 99% always on streams. This franchise I picked up in, like, what was it, 2015, give or take? Yeah, I think it was... Yeah, around 2015, 2014, I think it was 2014, actually. Before the release of second chapter, which is technically the second game in the whole franchise. So, I bought this game, and I couldn't tell you why I bought it. I think I was just looking at the Steam page. It looked like a really cozy, nice little game that I would enjoy playing. I think that's the only explanation I can think of at this point of time. Even though, like, I'm not super into JRPGs, like, I can't really tell you that I played a lot of them. I did play a few, but a lot of them either, like, didn't stand out to me, or they just didn't, you know, they didn't stick with me. Like, maybe they were not for me, maybe others would love them, but not really for me. But Trails was different, man. And I say this, coming from somebody, like, this is gonna sound like I'm trying to start shit, I'm really not, but I tried to play Final Fantasy VII, the original, before Trails. For some reason, I just kind of dropped it. I couldn't tell you why. I didn't even make it out of Midgar. But yeah, I just didn't continue the game. Maybe I just got sidetracked with other games, that's always possible, right? But yeah, that's what happened. I dropped Final Fantasy VII. I played a bunch of other, like, very niche JRPGs, like some for the Vita. I can't even remember their name. But, you know, I did play a bunch of JRPGs, and really, not all of them stick the landing for me. I feel like I may have dropped more JRPGs than I finished, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, again, when I picked up Trails and I played through this game, if I remember right, at this point of time, I was like 11 hours in, and I think I only just finished the prologue, or I just started the prologue. I can't, it's one of those two. But that should tell you how insane these games are. Like, man, there's gonna be a whole, like, section of me just fanboying about the world building and every ounce of detail they put in these games, but these games, the writing in them, the characterization, the dialogue, just, you know, the way the characters talk to each other, the localization, my god, the localization. To be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen one that lives up to one like this one. It's stupidly unparalleled, if that's the right word, English. Anyway, unmatched, I think, is a better word for it. And, you know, I'm no stranger to, like, Japanese games being localized and, you know, seeing those localizations, as a lot of you know. Like, I've seen a lot of that with Yakuza alone, but, you know, I studied in the field of translation, so, like, localization is a big deal to me, and just, you know, hearing about the process, knowing about the process of translation, and, you know, which words to use where, and how do you, like, you know, convey this to, like, an audience, like, all of that. For the most part, I kind of studied, and you know, just seeing amazing localization, like with Trails, like, blows my mind. I know it sounds something so mundane, probably to some of you, or so basic, but I feel like so many of us just overlook how, like, game-changing localization can do. You have that saying that says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and I feel like in a lot of situations, that really is true. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of something here, but, like, okay, maybe we're not gonna go with that because I'm horrible at thinking up examples on the spot. But, like, how you convey something will have a drastic effect on, you know, what the audience will feel. And I feel like the localization team of the Trails games really understood that. It didn't feel like I was playing a localized game. It felt like I was playing a very natural, like, you know, almost as if it was made in English kind of experience, which is just amazing to me. And yeah, so that's, like, the localization aspect of things. It's just honestly very, very impressive. They do an amazing job, you know, just translating every bit of this neat, intricate little world. I realized after recording that I didn't give a good example as to why the localization for this game is insane, so allow me to elaborate a bit further with an actual example. There are treasure chests in these games. Now, in the Japanese releases of these games, if you'd inspect the chest after looting it, it would just say the chest is empty. However, the localization team went above and beyond and decided to give almost every single chest a unique line when you inspect it after looting it. I'm not going to show too many examples because some of these are really funny and I think you should see them for yourself. Imagine the amount of work that went into taking the liberties to come up with all these different lines across all the different chests. To my knowledge, this is available in the first 2 arcs, but sadly from Cold Steel onwards they dropped this tradition. But anyway, that's a lot of talk about localization, isn't it? Let me talk about, the game itself.
Someone's been naughty.
This is probably where a lot of people get confused, but the Trails games, the Legend of Heroes games, these games have, at this point of time, 4 different arcs. So, Trails in the Sky games, people say. There's 3 Sky games. And then we have the Crossbow games. These have 2 games. So Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. These 2 games take place in a different country. And then you have the Cold Steel games. So there it is, Cold Steel. This arc has 4 games in total, which is insane. It's by far the longest arc in the whole franchise. And then there's an arc in another country as well called the Daybreak arc. Trails through Daybreak. And unfortunately, I don't have a physical copy of that arc, so I can't really show it off here. But yeah, so at this point of time, we have 4 arcs. The 4th has yet to be finished. In fact, it's gonna get a game probably maybe this year or the next. Hey there, it's future me again, sprinkling more additions even though I said I wanted this video to not be all that edited. So something I forgot and neglected to mention is that all these games are interconnected, but not in just any average sequel way. Currently, there's about 13 games, give or take, and the series is still ongoing. People sometimes dub this series as the One Piece of gaming because of how extensive yet detailed it is. Think of the most lore-heavy pieces of fiction out there. This series easily rivals any of them. It gives you a satisfaction that you don't normally come across after going through all the slow burns that it has. And you'll come to have a deeper appreciation for the roots the further you go in, and the climactic moments only become better and better with all the knowledge of the beginnings that you have. This series is on the scale of epics of all time, like very long tales of eventful hardships, joy, and companionships that take you to many places and have you meet many people, from normal people to legendary figures. This is like if the Elder Scrolls lore was tangible, not just happening mostly in the background, and you actually got to see it progress in real time right in front of you, which is huge, and definitely does its part in having you live through some really exciting and troubling times at the same time. But yeah, so 4 arcs, with the Sky games being the beginning, right? So the Sky games, it's gonna sound like very generic, JRPG talk, because every JRPG starts small, right? Very humble beginnings. You start, I don't know, in the woods, for example, and, you go through a very peaceful chain of events, and then something might happen, and, the plot kicks into high gear. Is that how you say it? I think it is. I don't know. But yeah, the plot, thickens, as they say. And then the stakes also get higher, and you might end up facing, the JRPG meme. You might end up facing, gods or deities or what have you. And, I don't want to confirm or deny that the Trails games do that. There's just something special, man. Even, like with the beginnings of this franchise, even though, these games are a slow burn. They really are. This game, for example, is about 40 hours, give or take, depending on how much you do in it. The second game is 60 to 80 hours, and the third game is actually shorter than the second game, about 40 hours as well. But yeah, the Sky Trilogy in total will maybe get, let's say, 140, 50 hours from you, which is, a lot of time. And it's crazy because, the Sky Trilogy is, in a way, one whole story. But then you find other JRPGs, like a single game like Persona 5, for example. That game alone is like 150 hours, or it can be at least. But Trails also has like a very interesting thing where, you know, Trails in the Sky and the second game, Trails in the Sky second chapter, they were actually intended to be one game. But because of how long they got, maybe at least for the time, this came out in 2004 initially. So maybe because of like the time period, they split this into 2 games. And then the third is actually, you know, a whole separate game. But yeah, the Cold Steel have a similar thing where even though there are 4 games technically, they were supposed to be 2 games. So that should probably give you an idea of how much they take their time trying to flesh out the world and the characters. It's kind of insane, honestly. Like, there's a lot of things about the Trails franchise that you either don't see often with other games, game series, or they like other games just don't do it well, at least in my eyes, right? I mean, the Trails games gripped me for a reason. Like, you know, I did mention earlier how a lot of JRPG games just don't really hook me as well. But the Trails franchise, completely different story. But yeah, like, so Trails in the Sky, like, again, very humble beginnings. The gameplay I also find pretty fun. Like, it's not something super complicated. It has like depth and complexity to it, but once you know how it works, you can actually do quite a few things with it, like different builds, different, you know, like set of characters being together in the same party. The gameplay is like, again, nothing like super extraordinary or fancy, but for what it is, it's really charming. Like, there's a lot of charm to it. And there's a lot of like cool moves that you see from these characters. The combat, I honestly like it, even though it's pretty simple in the earlier games. There's just something about it. I think maybe it's like the sound effects combined with like the variety of the moves you can do. Something gameplay related that I forgot to mention that is worth mentioning is that grinding is often a major concern with JRPGs. But I'm happy to say that with Trails, they have a really convenient system in place to where if you're underleveled at any point of the games, the current random encounters will give you sufficient XP to get caught up to speed without having to spend too much time to do so at all. And speaking of random encounters, this game adopts my favorite take on random encounters where you pick your fights unless the enemies spot you and run into you before you do, but that's easy to work around once you know that they do that. And again, you will not feel like you have to stop and grind at all. The progression is very organic and it makes experiencing the stories of these games really pleasant for the most part. Even though it's nothing new, like, you know, a bunch of games, lore-heavy games do this, at the beginning, they will introduce like a set of terminology for you to, you know, understand about the game's world, which, like, you know, I think for a lot of us might feel overwhelming whenever you get into it, like a new world, basically, and you have all these things that you gotta learn, right? A Metaphor, for example, does this, where, even though I didn't beat the game, but, you know, at the beginning, they introduce you to all these different, like, tribes / races, and they tell you about their differences and how they fit into the societies and all that. You know, kind of a similar thing with Sky, but it's not about like races or tribes, even though you do learn about other countries and all that. Like, there's a lot of, you know, how do I say, like political knowledge that you come to accumulate. Like, it's not all thrown at you at the beginning. You get to know like the most relevant things at first, and then, you know, you just move on to whatever you gotta do in the story. The side quests in this game are honestly also impressive. Every side quest doesn't feel like a side quest because it's not just like, oh, you know, I need you to fetch me like this glass of milk from the convenience store or something. It's not, you know, simple as that. You're actually getting to know, you know, the NPCs around the town, and the NPCs are not just NPCs, by the way. This is where we get to another, like, very unique part about Trails. Like, the world building in the Trails games is almost unmatched. Almost every single NPC you meet in these games, almost every single one of them, they're all named. And they all have their own little story arcs happening while you go around, you know, doing the main story, you know, just trying to quell whatever chaos is going on here and, you know, whatever chaos is going on there. These NPCs move around and their dialogue changes every time, you know, there's a major shift in the story. And that's just impressive. Like, imagine how much text work was done on these games on both like the Japanese side and then the localization side, it's mind-boggling, to be honest. But yeah, almost every single NPC you talk to just has their own little thing going on, and every time you advance past a certain story point, it might be worth going back to talk to the NPCs to see what they're up to, now after what you've just done. But of course, that's something that I don't think everybody's going to enjoy, because like there's a lot of text, and not everybody wants to read everything there is to read about any given game. But if you like that kind of thing, Trails is going to deliver in spades. That's how you say it, right? Trails is going to deliver so much, dude. It's unbelievable. What you would think is the most insignificant NPC probably might, like, you never know. He might show up in another town, and then he'll be like, oh, hey, you're here, and, you'll recognize them, and it's just, like, a very nice feeling. And I know that, some games do this to an extent, but Trails, once again, does it to, like, almost unbelievable degrees, to where it's like they just take it to the next level. And if I say any more than this would be, like, spoiler territory, probably, and I want to keep this section as spoiler-free as possible for the time being. The NPCs, amazing depth given to pretty much every single one. You do have unnamed NPCs, like, I don't know, Soldier or something, but those actually make up, like, I don't know, 5-10% of the total NPCs, which is insane, because usually it's the other way around. When you play, like, a JRPG, or even, like, not a JRPG, just, like, any game with, like, an open world and NPCs, most of the NPCs are just going to be, like, roaming around, like, doing whatever the fuck it is they do. And that's it. Like, you don't even get to talk to them. They just, like, walk around. They may not even be the same NPCs that you see. Like, when you have games that, generate NPCs and they don't have, like, unique ones that they load in every time. That kind of thing. But no, Trails has very specific NPCs that are, for example, native to one city or, one specific area. And when you come back, you almost always find them there, unless they, for story reasons, they went on to do something else. And yeah, that's just the NPCs, mind you. Now, we talked about the gameplay as well. The story is also, like, I don't want to... Okay, we're only, like, 20 minutes in, but I feel like I glazed this franchise so hard already that it might be turning people off already, and that's not my intention. But the storytelling and the world building, definitely. Like, if you ask most Trails fans, they will tell you these two are, like, the best aspects of the Trails games. They do these two things very, very, very well. It's just incredible how well they do it. Gameplay and all that other stuff, it's kind of debatable. Others will tell you it's, like, nothing special. But to me, even the combat is just really fun, and I love it. But yeah, when it comes to world building and, the characters and the story, it's honestly amazing how organic everything feels when it comes to, like, the localization, them, like, the characters talking to each other, how you see, like, the relationships evolve over time, and, just seeing all these, it's gonna sound very cliche, but seeing all the bonds, like, just grow over time. It just hit different with Trails. There's something about it. I just can't recommend these games enough. I really, really can't. And I'm trying to think of what more I can say that wouldn't be spoilers at this point, but I feel like I've given a very good idea of what to expect from these games already. There's just a lot of JRPG goodness to appreciate about them. I feel like even if you're not a huge fan of JRPG games, you might actually enjoy these. I don't know. But again, this is coming from somebody that doesn't play an insane amount of JRPGs. But this one stuck for me, and call me, what's a good word here? Call me, like, delusional, maybe. But I feel like if you're a Yakuza fan, which, most of the people watching this channel are Yakuza fans, you actually might like the Trails games. So, give them a try. Like, if you like very intricate stories, and if you like slow burns as well, if you like really good characters, if you like, I don't know, just like being able to walk around, talk to NPCs, check out shops and hubs and all that, I think you're going to love Trails. I didn't think I would fall in love with the Trails games as much as I did, but again, I've been proven wrong, and I'm glad I was proven wrong. And again, at some point of time, like when I was at the peak of my enjoyment with this franchise, I would have told you, you know what, dude, I love Trails more than I love Yakuza at this point. I don't know if I would say that at this point of time, but Trails and Yakuza are probably my top two. Now, which one I would pick for top one, I don't know. Because they're both just so good. Can't recommend Trails enough. Like, if you want a JRPG experience that is unique, at least in my view it is unique, I would say play the Trails games. And as the title might imply, I don't know if that's what I'm gonna go with, but I genuinely believe the Trails games are so peak that I don't think I'm going to play any other JRPG and enjoy it as much. It might be the same thing with, like, I don't know, for example, people playing, say, Final Fantasy games, or Final Fantasy VII, or, I don't know, Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, like any JRPG. Maybe it's the same with those people that might have started with those games, and they just have, like, a special spot for those games in their hearts, and no other game will match it. Maybe it's the same as that, but I just saw so many good things from this franchise that I haven't seen in other games. Or, well, at least in my eyes, I haven't seen other JRPGs pull it off as well. So, genuinely, I think the Trails games might have ruined other JRPG games for me because it's so damn good. Like, let that sink in for a bit. The Trails games are insanely addictive that I was like, you know what? Why even play other JRPGs? I've already played Peak. And the good thing is, all of these games now are on Steam. All of them. So the Sky Trilogy, the very beginning, the Starter Trilogy, it's all on Steam. And they have very nice quality of life features, by the way, like Turbo Mode, if you've been in random encounters a lot and you just want to speed through them, you can do that. And then the Crossbow games, this is the second arc. Both of these games are also on Steam at the moment. And you really don't need like a super powerful PC. These are you could play these on a toaster, so don't worry about having a proper PC. If you have like just a computer that's been made in the last 20 years, probably they're gonna work. And then you have the Trails of Cold Steel games, 4 of these games, and they're all on Steam. And then you have a game after that that acts as an epilogue for Cold Steel and the Crossbow games called Trails into Reverie. That's also on Steam. And then after that, the 4th arc is the Daybreak arc, and that's also on Steam. Currently, we only have one game in that arc. The second one is coming next month, actually, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, so the whole experience is very, like, accessible. Everybody can get into these. They really don't need, like, a powerful PC. Maybe, like, I would argue maybe, like, Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4, but even then, I think they probably could run on, like, just any old PC that's been made in the last 10 years. Yeah, let's call it here for the spoiler, for the non-spoiler section. We're already like almost half an hour into this, so I feel like that's enough. Everybody that watched this and will click off because of, the spoiler section, I just want to say thank you for watching. And for those that, want to continue watching, whether you're like a veteran of the franchise or even if you're new and you just want to see what I love about this franchise so much, just hop in and listen. Chances are you're gonna forget about all of this anyway, because these games are so long. There's so many games. By the time you get to what I'm talking about, you'll probably forget all about it. So, anyway, this is the beginning of the spoiler section. So here we are. A lot of this might be retreading just a bit of what I said earlier, because, I'm gonna basically talk about my journey, but just with spoilers this time. But yeah, when I got into Trails in the Sky, something about it just, really hooked me in. It was a very special experience that was comfy, exciting, an emotional roller coaster at the same time. It had everything, dude. It had everything. Good music. I really enjoyed the combat, and especially like when I figured out the intricacies of like the orbments in the chord system, where certain combinations will give you like certain arts and all that. I was like, man, this is so neat. Like, it's not super complex. Maybe it is at first, but it's just neat. Like, it's fun. It's a fun little mechanic. I really enjoyed the chords and orbment like mechanic. And at first, like, taking an extra turn to cast spells was jarring, but I got used to it. Estelle as a protagonist is how do I say? Like, I don't want to say this is like, the general opinion, but from what I've seen of people whenever they talk about her, like, pretty much everybody that I've seen, play the Sky games, they're like, dude, Estelle is special. She's not like, your typical JRPG protagonist. Like, most of the time, in JRPGs, having, like, a female main character that is as good as Estelle, I don't want to make any, like, bold statements, like, you don't see much of that or whatever. But let's just say, I think something universally most fans can agree with is Estelle has a very, very unique personality. I mean, for what it's worth, she's a unique main protagonist, maybe. Maybe the personality side is not so unique. There's room to argue there, but I would say even that, like, is, fairly, like, special, at least, if not unique. And, just seeing the way she talks to people, the way she interacts with her family, people around town, nuisances like Olivier and everyone else. Like, she just has a way with words where even she doesn't realize it because, she's like she's what they portray as a tomboy. So a lot of the time, she really doesn't realize how much weight she has with her words. But you, the player, playing through these games, you really see how much of an effect she has on people, right? Because she is so, like, bright. It affects people around her, they come to love her easily, and she even, just cheers people up just by being around them. And, yeah, Estelle's interactions with, like, the other characters are amazing. Like, it almost never is a dull moment whenever she's on the screen, which is a lot of the time. And you just see her, like, handling, specific situations. Like, she really has a way. She has a gift for being a bracer, even if it doesn't seem apparent at first, which is, just really, it's great. It's really nice. And then we have, Joshua, who's like, he lives with her and her dad, and he's like, quote-unquote, the adopted son, but I'd rather not look at it that way. This is like, okay, for those who played the game, they know why this is so awkward, but Joshua's like a boy that Estelle's father adopted. His name is Cassius. And, he lives with them ever since. There's a lot of mystery to him, and you don't know what's going on with him. But, as the story progresses, you find out. The end of the first game hits you so goddamn hard with the reveal as well. So hard, you probably will buy the second game right after that and jump into it yourself, wasting no time at all. Now, unfortunately, your boy here, when I played this game, it was before the second game came out. So, I had to wait one whole year before I saw the conclusion, or the continuation, of the brutal cliffhanger that the first game has. Oh my god. The cliffhanger of Sky 1, or First Chapter, or FC, I dare say is just one of, like, I don't know if I should say one of the most brutal that I've ever seen, or one of the best that I've ever seen, or both. But, by god, it hooked me. It hooked me so hard. Like, I already enjoyed the slow burn of FC, which I know is something that, people may not like, because, they just want to get to the action straight away. Understandable. But I enjoyed the slow burn of Trails, FC. Like, talking to the NPCs, seeing the world go around, and, NPCs just move around and talk, and all the quests, all the people you get to know, all these characters that you meet. I love that. I love that so much. And then, when they hit you with that ending, it's like, man, if I wasn't a fan already, consider me a fan right now. Give me the goddamn second game right now. So yeah, I had to wait a year. By the way, I'm not the most unfortunate in that regard, I think. I think some other people had to wait longer, if I remember right. For me, it was a year, which is brutal, but I think others might have had it worse. But, it still was very tormenting to have to wait that long for this game, for the second game for SC. Before we move on to the second game, I just want to talk about, like, the characters we meet. Some of the other playable characters. You start with Estelle and Joshua. You almost always play as those. But then, in the first game, you meet Shehzad, or Shera, and then you meet Olivier. Love that dude so much. And then you meet Agate, Tita, Zin, and I think that's it for the first game. Like, no wait, Chloe, I almost forgot about Chloe. Yeah, so 6 other characters, 8 in total for the first game, if I remember right. It's just, you know, it's impressive how much each of them has going for them. It's not like, oh, you know, you get like this one party member that's like a throwaway, he doesn't really have much to him and he's just there. Like, no, it never really feels that way. Like, sure, maybe to an extent it feels like one character might get a bit more focus than another one, even though this other character also got some focus. But for the most part, everybody gets a moment to shine. And I've seen people who had problems with, like, say, Zin, for example, saying that he doesn't really add much to the Sky games and he's like a fraud and whatnot. But, hey, listen. Zin is my man, okay? Zin is amazing, and in my eyes, the way I view characters like Zin, who, you know, he's like 31 or something like that. He's in his 30s, so he's like a wise figure in the party, like, you know, somebody who has a lot of experience. And the way I see it, you know, some characters are meant to, like, God, we had a term for this when I was studying literature, but you have like dynamic characters, I think, and static characters. Dynamic characters, you know, you have a character that has a lot of growth to do, a character that changes throughout the story. A static character is a character that may not necessarily change, you know, for one reason or another. And yeah, like that's like the nature of the character. You know, Zin arguably is a static character, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have any depth to him. It doesn't mean he doesn't have anything going for him. In fact, it just kind of adds to him, if anything. Because Zin is like an already established kind of character. You know, being in his age, like, you know, in his early 30s, he probably already, like, had a lot of, like, self-reflection to do over the years. So, obviously, he might not be as troubled as, say, Estelle or Joshua. And I found that to be perfectly fine. Like, I didn't find any problems with that. If anything, just seeing him being like this mentor figure to Estelle, Joshua, and, you know, all the others, that was really nice, actually. I really enjoyed that. And even then, they made it a point to show that he's not as, like, you know, almighty, I guess, as he might seem, and that he still has a ways to go. And he himself, you know, says as much. He's powerful, but he's not, like, an S-rank bracer, right? So yeah, almost every single character I really enjoyed. I want to talk about Agate as well. Agate is, like, one of my top favorite characters in the Sky games. You don't see much of him in FC, of course. And a lot of people actually don't like him in FC because, you know, he's kind of mean to you, he's a bit rude, he doesn't really have a lot of faith in your capabilities, but that changes completely in SC. Now, mind you, I kind of liked Agate even in the first game because it felt kind of obvious that, you know, he was kind of being an asshole just because he kind of is that way. He doesn't open up to people easily, and it wasn't really difficult to see that. And I'm pretty sure, like, one of the first meetings with him, the second one, I think, at the Rwan checkpoint, where you actually play as him for the first time, he tells, like, the soldiers, you know, Estelle and Joshua actually helped defend this place, it wasn't all me. So that immediately already showed that this guy, you know, he's not as bad as he might seem. I mean, we have the Weissman twist, bro, like... Oh, bro, I was so invested when that happened. I could not believe my eyes. I feel like the moment I saw that, that was when I was like, okay, you know what? I think the Trails games are gonna be something special. They are built different. And I don't know if I'm ever gonna play something as peak as this. Because, like, here's the thing, you know, I played a lot of the Yakuza games, and they have their fair share of twists. Like, oh, this guy is the big bad. Oh no, actually, it's this other guy. He just never, like, thought of it or whatever. But in the Yakuza games, a lot of the time, it feels like the reveals are super, like, almost cartoonish. Like, haha, you know, I'm the big bad. Like, what are you gonna do about it? And then you have a fight with them and it's over. Not in Trails, though. In Trails, you know, the franchise being a JRPG might have this to their advantage, to where, you know, because they have such a long story to tell, you don't necessarily have to, like, be done with a villain right from the first fight or encounter, right? So they get to save their villains for, like, you know, future plot points, maybe future games, and it's just really good. It's really good. Now, granted, I do think they sometimes overdo it. Like, when you have a villain show up, you basically know what to expect. You're either gonna talk to them, they're gonna like summon a horde at you, and then they fuck off. Trails does that a lot, but yeah, generally speaking, you know, I like that they don't waste characters per se, which is something Yakuza does a lot. It does it so much, and I hate it. Now, maybe you can make an argument for a couple of characters in Trails that, you know, they got wasted in a way. But I think we can agree the vast majority of the characters in Trails, like, they give them justice. You know, they're done pretty well. And again, that's something that's just very, very impressive about the Trails games. It's honestly kind of scary how well they do all of the characters justice for the most part. Except Kevin. But, you know, they brought him back in Kai, so we're gonna let that slide. If you couldn't tell, Kevin is like one of my favorite characters in this franchise. But anyway, I feel like I still haven't talked about SC, dude. God damn it. So SC, I mean, might as well talk about Sky as a whole at this point. But yeah, like, you know, Sky's second chapter continues from where the brutal cliffhanger left off in FC. SC is really where the game kind of opens up. And you see this pattern a lot. Like, the first game in an arc is like an introductory game to that arc, where you might not have the most freedom, but then come the second game, and you'll see that you will have access to a lot of the characters early on, or just faster than the first game. And, you know, the areas might open up to you faster as well. You might have more side content and, you know, that kind of thing. It is a longer game, and it's also one of the best games in the whole franchise. Man, this game has so many good moments. It fleshes out so many characters. Agate gets one of the best arcs in the whole franchise, in my opinion. You could argue it's like basic, but man, it's so good. I love Agate so much. I can't wait to see him in the remake now that that's coming, dude. Like, man, I'm so excited. But yeah, so many characters were done justice. Agate, Zin, Chloe, Tita, just, you know, everybody. Olivier, oh man, dude. That Imperial Prince reveal. God damn, dude. Once again, they prove that they're like masterclass when it comes to like just twists and how they do it. Oh, who would have seen it coming? Now, granted, you know, in hindsight, after playing the game multiple times and watching others play it as well, you do get some signs. But playing through the game the first time, you're probably not gonna think, like, you're not gonna give a second thought to all of the signs. Like, replaying the games and seeing the signs makes me realize just how insane the writing is, and the localization is as well. It's just unbelievable. Man, the second game has so many good twists. Louve as a character was also amazing. I love Louve. It's kind of sad he, you know, had to pass away, but it is what it is. It's actually one of the few times this franchise was brave enough to kill a character. That's actually a problem I kind of ended up having with a lot of the later games, where it feels like they're really, really afraid to kill off characters. So a character dies, they might come back. Character dies, some magical something like revives them, but then they also become actually permanently alive. It's kind of weird. So yeah, like the SC... Trails in the Sky SC, the second game, it wraps up the story of Estelle and Joshua, and it puts a nice little, you know, bow tie on top of things. But then what do you know? At the end, there's another twist. A certain character, a new character in this game that you play as, Kevin. He is not what he appears to be. He turns out to be a cold motherfucker that assassinates wise men in cold blood. Whew. Kevin. God damn, Kevin, dude. From the moment that I saw that scene, I was like, bro, Estelle and Joshua, goodbye. Kevin, get over here. I was so intrigued. And knowing that he was going to be the main character in the third game had me unbelievably hyped as well. Like, what, you know, playing through these games, I always pay more attention than I need to. And what I mean by that is when there's like portrait changes, when there's like, you know, unusual shifts in the dialogue or tone of the characters, I'm like, yo, what is going on here? Holy shit, this speak. whenever I see, you know, the smallest of that kind of stuff, I'm like, man, again, this is fire. This is peak. And then, you know, I had to wait, I think, was it a year or two? I think I had to wait 2 years, yeah, for the third. The wait was painful, let me tell you, because I was so excited to see, you know, Kevin's story. In 2017, I believe, the third came out, and I had the pleasure of playing it, and my god, I love it so much. I think the third might be my favorite game in the whole franchise, which I know, like, you know, the third is like a hit or miss for some people. You either find it to be the best thing ever, or like, not all that great. And I understand both sides of the coin. Trails the Third is kind of different to where it doesn't play like Trails FC and SC. You're mostly doing like dungeon crawling with like story bits sprinkled here and there. You basically get to decide when you want to view the story, and as a result, the game could be shorter or it could be the same length as like FC. For me personally, I really enjoyed the door system. I thought the door system was amazing. You know, just seeing like snippets of the characters' lives and what they were doing after the events of SC, you know, between SC and the third. I really enjoyed that aspect. And, you know, having Ren and Richard being added to the roster was a very, very, very welcome thing. Richard is amazing. He almost never left my party. God, I love, like, his craft so much. And I'm still hoping he'll come back, even though, like, you could argue he has no reason to come back. But how many characters later on returned when you could also argue they didn't need to return? So you know what? Richard, I'm waiting for you. Richard was such a goated character. Like, he had amazing character development. Going from a villain in FC to, like, trying to, you know, redeem himself in second and third chapter. And in third chapter, you get to see his, like, mindset even more. And you get to, like, take a look at his inner thoughts and how he struggled with, you know, overcoming the betrayal that he did in FC, which, you know, he was kind of being mind controlled in FC as well. So, like, he kind of is being a bit more harsh on himself than he needs to be, which is kind of sad. Regardless, he is a peak character. Like, I love Richard so much, and I don't even need to say anything about Ren, dude. Ren, I think a lot of us, like, you know, seeing her at first in SC, we were like, you know, oh, who's this, like, little kid? Or, you know, you might have even been annoyed by her because she's like so, she comes off as arrogant, but then when you see like why she's arrogant and why she is the way she is, it's like, oh, Ren, I'm so sorry. How could I have even thought about you, you know, being annoying? I'm sorry. I've sinned. I would talk about Stardor 15, but I don't really need to because I feel like you guys have already seen everybody's thoughts on that door, and, you know, it really doesn't change from one person to another. I gotta give it to Falcom, man. Falcom and the localization team as well. Falcom, you know, they added a very, very, very touchy subject to a game that doesn't seem like it might have that kind of thing. As twisted as it might sound, or as weird as it might sound, them adding a door like that made me fall in love with the franchise even harder, because not all game franchises are brave enough to do something like that. Not all game franchises are bold enough to, you know, delve into very sensitive subject matter, but, like, not be insensitive about it, but, like, you know, treat it with the utmost care, right? And I felt like Stardor 15, you know, it proceeded in a way where it displayed, like, an unimaginable tragedy. But at the same time, it did so with the purpose of, like, you know, explaining to the player, like, you know, why Ren seems to be as much of a psychopath as she is. And, you know, they give us a glimpse of how, like, what she went through to make her this way. And, man, that part of the door where Joshua and Luve step in and they kill, like, all the guys at the at Paradise. And even, you know, Luve was like, what kind of subhuman monsters are these guys? God, it hits so hard, dude. What is that TV trope? Even evil has standards, right? That is like the perfect example of that trope. When people from the society, from Ouroboros, are like, what in the heck is going on here? You know, this shit is fucked up. And God, like that door was perfect in so many ways. Again, hats off to Falcom, and an even bigger hats off to the localization team, because you know the writing for that door was amazing, and you know the writing in general for the games is amazing. But I feel like they really have done a stellar job in choosing the words for that door, and I just, yeah, I'm so thankful for it, man. Like it's such a, they have such good storytelling. It's it's like out of this world. But yeah, and then with the third, you have, you know, the backstory of Kevin himself. Like, you know, starting off as a badass on this like mission on a plane, like James Bond style. I love that. First of all, so fucking good. I was expecting to honestly see like more like missions like that at first, until, you know, Phantasma came along, and I'm like, oh, we're probably gonna spend the whole game here. Which I was also fine with, because, you know, it still developed Kevin, and we saw, like, a lot of things about him, and really of multiple characters. I think I still maintain that Kevin is one of the best protagonists in the Kiseki series, or the Trails games. He is amazing. In fact, I said this in my Discord group, but Kevin is so peak. They were too afraid to bring him back again, because he hit peak. He hit the highest peak in the one game that he had. Well, it's now 2 games. But he hit that peak. And releasing more games with him would only endanger that peak, because there's always a chance they could fumble, like, plot points and all that. But, you know, Kai came out and he's back. And I'm honestly excited to see how, like, he fits into that story. But Kevin is amazing. I honestly think he's like top 2 protagonists for me. Man, he's such a cool character. Like, how often do you play as a priest in JRPGs? I feel like, okay, this is according to Niko, not me, okay? But when I was watching his Trails in the Sky, like, walkthrough, he said that often in JRPGs, which I trust him, he plays a lot of JRPGs, like way more than me, 100%. But he says that the church is usually depicted as like evil, and, you know, you might come across a lot of like villains from the church, and, you know, like that kind of thing. But again, in Trails, one of the things that I like about it is that the church is actually like, it's not just some background like organization, it's actually very central to the events of the games, which is something you wouldn't think would be the case, but it is. And it's not as clear cut as, oh, those guys are good, or oh, those guys are evil. You get to know, thanks to the third and, you know, later games, that the church knows a lot more than they're letting on. But at the same time, they're not evil, and at the same time, they're not like good guys. Like, you know, they're, like the games say, they're a lot like Ouroboros in some ways. Like, you know, they have these Dominions, just like the Enforcers, and they have no problems killing, and they're very cold people at times. And just like that parallel is so fascinating to me. I feel like the church aspect of the franchise is honestly underrated, and not, like, I don't see many people like really go into it and, you know, appreciate it, I guess. But I feel like it's one of the things that made Trails stand out for me. You know, just having like this central religion that pretty much every character is kind of a part of. And then the church itself as an organization has a lot of like layers to it. It's not like as simple as, you know, black or white. Yeah, it's amazing. And it's even more amazing that even now, with all the games, you know, after being caught up with all the games, the church is still a mystery. Yeah, I think I'm glad that they're keeping it, you know, a mystery for this long, because if you give away the answers like way too early, I mean, you could argue maybe it could work, but I think the way Trails handles it is really good. But yeah, so that's about Trails and the Sky, or yeah, the Sky games. I want to talk briefly about the other arcs as well, so let's just move on. This video is going to be probably like very long anyway. So yeah, the Crossbow games. Now the Crossbow games has 2 games, Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. And going into this arc, I didn't know what to expect. At the time when I went into it, I think I played the patch before the Steam releases actually came out. People were talking about how this is like the best thing to happen in the whole franchise, the Crossbow games. And going into it, there's definitely a lot of things that I really enjoyed, like Crossbow as a city, the music, the music. But then again, they never really miss with the music, so that's nothing new. The combat, even though it's the same, I continue to enjoy it. All the little additions like the Rush, was it called Rush or Team Rush? One of those two. You know, just the little additions I really appreciated. The characters I really like Lloyd, Ellie, Randy, Tio, Risha, even Dudley. Dude, we need to talk about Dudley. Where's my boy? Yeah. The later games neglect him so hard. Make him playable again, please. I want to see Justice Hammer in HD, dude. Oh. Anyway. So, the crossplay games are really good. I enjoyed them so much. Though, okay, this might sound like bias, but then again, bias in an opinion video, who would have thought, right? I would say, like, as far as the other arcs go, I think Sky is my favorite of them all. But, you know, that's not to say the other arcs are weak. They all have, again, amazing highlights. For example, in Zero, the whole cult thing going on in Zero was probably my favorite part of the whole game. I found that part to be the most fascinating. The fact that we're chasing a cult in a world that seems as cheery as the Trails games, it's kind of surreal. I don't know how to explain it. Like, you know, when you're in Crossbow City and you're seeing these people, you know, do their like day-to-day chores and all that, it just seems like a very unassuming, like generic, happy, you know, kind of hub where you wouldn't have all these twisted things going on. But, you know, Zero just comes in and proves you wrong. Like, at first, you're, like, sure, you're dealing with, like, you know, citizen requests and all that, and it seems, like, very mundane. But again, once you hit that cult part, man, it picks up. The cult aspect of the story, again, is my most favorite thing about this game. Again, I appreciate that they were brave enough to kind of add an element that twisted. I don't know if twisted is the right word, because you can't get more twisted than the third, to be honest, between the Stardor 15 and Kevin's backstory. But, you know, Zero still had, like, a very twisted cult, and, you know, you get to meet their leader, you get to deal with him, there's a lot of twists on the way. And funnily enough, even though it's like, you know, the first game in its arc, the story felt self-contained. Like, it even gets like an ending of sorts, unlike Trails in the Sky FC, which is a surprise. And then you have Trails to Azure, which is the continuation. Like, a lot of the Crossbow games and the Cold Steel games are a blur for me, but I know that I love them. I was gonna say you get to play as more characters, and technically you do, but a lot of the characters you play as in Azure, you also play as in Zero, but just not as much. But yeah, let's talk about some of the characters. Dude, Dudley needs to come back. I don't care. Justice Hammer, I want to see that again. Taking off your shirt and just punching the shit out of the enemy is so good. Coming from a Yakuza fan, I'm sure, you know, you would understand this. But seeing that as a Yakuza fan, I was like, yo, Dudley, my man. Dudley is like one of the least fleshed out characters in the Crossbow games, and I still loved him so much. I just think he's cool. Like, Justice Hammer is what nailed it for me. I really like Dudley. Having two games, you would think that it's gonna be like the shortest arc, but not necessarily, actually. Like, Zero is arguably between 60 to 80 hours, and the second game is about as much. So I would argue, like, this arc takes as long as the Sky games, give or take. Both Crossbow games are fairly long. There's a lot that happens in them. You get introduced to, like, new enforcers, new Anguis even, of the Ouroboros organization. But, like, I found, like, compared to Sky, like, some things just didn't hit the same, but it still had amazing highlights, like that fight outside the IBC, I think it was. When Randy is like, oh, fuck this, dude. Man, that was so good. And just, like, yeah, like, Randy's whole backstory was amazing. I feel like characters with something to hide probably is my favorite thing, judging by, you know, Kevin and Ren and, you know, a bunch of other characters. But yeah, Randy was awesome. I think Randy, he might just be my favorite of the, you know, the Crossbow 4, if we had to put it. But I enjoyed all of them. Even Ellie, which might seem generic, but she has, like, you know, good things about her. Tio is great. Lloyd is also great. Risha, Noel, and Dudley. I love all of them. The interesting thing about the Crossbow games is that, you know, I believe Azure, the second game, coincides with Trails of Cold Steel 1, so that's kind of cool. And you will see that going forward with Cold Steel as well. Like, the the Crossbow games and the Cold Steel games overlap a lot. So much so that Trails into Reverie, the epilogue game for Cold Steel and for the Crossbow games, they have you play as both protagonists in there, like Lloyd and Reen as well. Reen is the main protag of the Cold Steel games. But yeah, very solid arc, and there's just like a lot to appreciate about it. Playing as a police team, basically, was something of a refreshing experience, even though you do like a lot of stuff that the Bracers do, basically. It's the same kind of modus operandi. Like, one of the best parts is like seeing the characters as well that you're familiar with come back, which, you know, heavily contributes or rewards you for playing the previous games, and you're like, yo, Stella and Joshua are here, yo, it's Kevin, yo. It's one of the best feelings ever. It's one of those things where if you stick with the games from the beginning, you'll definitely feel much more rewarded. It's just a good feeling. I kind of wish Kevin was playable, but it is what it is. At least we got Estelle and Joshua at the end of Zero. And I forget if they were playable in Azure as well, but yeah. I don't know if I want to say anything more about the Crossbow games. So let's move on to the Trails of Cold Steel games. If I remember right, with Cold Steel... Yeah, so my play order was kind of weird. I played Trails in the Sky FC and then SC. The third took 2 years. And Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 came out before the third. So I played Trails FC and SC, and then Cold Steel 1 and 2, and then played the third. And I think only after that I played the Crossbow games, if I remember right. I can't be too sure right now. But yeah, my play order was all over the place, mainly because of like how unorganized the release order was for us in the West years ago. I played Trails of Cold Steel 1 on the Vita, and I enjoyed it a lot. Like, the military school vibe, the relaxing OST whenever you're just chilling, hanging out with people, talking in, what was it, Trista, I believe? So comfy. So comfy. You feel like you're a student again. Sounds like boomer talk for me, but hey, listen, when I played this, I was in university, to be fair, okay? So, technically, it still applied to me. But yeah, it has like very comfy vibes where you're just, like, you know, going around and talking to people, making friends and all that. This game has, like, the main theme is, like, you know, the conflict between the commoners and the nobles, which is a theme you usually see in, like, Victorian-era novels and all that. So, seeing it in a game like this was very interesting and intriguing to me. It's actually probably one of my favorite aspects about it. Like, I didn't know if I would have expected that from this game, or this franchise in general. Because, like, you know, jumping from Sky to Crossbill, it's like... It's such a leap, you know, like, the countries look so different, and even, like, the technologies might change from one country to another, and it's like, whoa, this country has laptops? Wait, we didn't have that in the previous arc, you know what I mean? But in Cold Steel, they end up having stuff like fucking mechs, like full-on robots, like Gundams, and it's kind of weird to see coming from, you know, the Crossbow games and the Sky games. But it's also very interesting because it's like, you know, just like cultural differences is the way I saw it. And it was definitely like an intriguing part. But yeah, like seeing, you know, the beginnings of Class 7 were pretty intriguing. Like, you know, seeing all these different people being assembled into one class by none other than Olivier. Oh, that was so good to see. But yeah, seeing them being assembled and seeing all of them like not getting along at first, but then slowly, like gradually, they bond over like story events and seeing, you know, just how they overcome their differences or put aside their differences. Honestly, one of the best aspects of Cold Steel. Now, Cold Steel is my least favorite arc, but it still has peak moments. And this is one of them. Them overcoming, like, again, their, or putting aside their differences to, you know, become friends and actually work together well. One of the best things about Cold Steel 1 and Cold Steel in general. And Cold Steel 1, you know, looking back on it, I think I'm more fond of it now in hindsight. I think it's just similar to FC in regards to, like, you know, setting up the characters. You come to appreciate that after you've been through many games in the franchise. Cold Steel 1 really is like a comfy game, relatively speaking, and even though it feels like not much happens in it, it still has really hype moments, like whenever Reen transforms into the ogre. I think those were like some of my favorite moments. Like, Ogre Reen is amazing, but honestly, I wish they did more with Ogre Reen. Reen himself is kind of scared of this state, which, you know, fair enough, but I kind of wanted to see something bloody happen with that. That really drives home the fact that this state is not one that Reen wants to be in, even if he needs power, or even if he's desperate, you know what I mean? I think that would have been amazing, but sadly they didn't go down that route. But regardless, Cold Steel 1, very good game, very good soundtrack. I think it might have my favorite, like, intro cinematic. It's so good. Like that shot panning into Osborne. So good. So good, dude. I might as well mention like my favorite class members. Going into Cold Steel 1, something about Eustace stuck out to me ever since the beginning. Even though he's like arrogant and a bit of a jerk at the beginning, still like I couldn't help but be drawn to him. Which is funny because that happened with Agate as well, so maybe I have something for that kind of character as well. I don't know. Eustace stood out to me. I liked his moves. He's good with both crafts and arts, which is a bonus. And what do you know? He later turns out to be one of the best classmates, or one of the best Class 7 characters, period. Like, man, Eustace, through the Cold Steel games, goes through such an incredible growth arc. It's insane. Honestly, it's to the point where I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't have minded it at all if Eustace was somehow the main character of the Cold Steel games. And, you know, Reen was like this friend that we're trying to help out. Because Eustace, even though it might not seem like it at first, he really is central to the story, like, a lot. And you see more of that in TreizerL Cold Steel 2 as well, when, you know, he kind of takes the reins of trying to handle family matters. They really do him justice. Like, he goes through a lot. Not just, like, between himself and his family and what he has, you know, like, the expectations he has to deal with, but also, like, with Machias and, you know, setting aside his differences towards, like, how he views commoners and all that. Though, having said that, it's not like he had problems with commoners per se. Machias kind of, you know, instigated that kind of behavior from Eustace in the first game, as we might have seen. Machias was just like really arrogant or rude, or he just really hates nobles, basically. And when Eustace saw that, of course he wanted to poke fun at him. So basically, Eustace is only trolling Machias for the heck of it, because Machias is so easy to piss off. Yeah, that's like the whole deal between the two. Seeing these two interact, actually, throughout the games is one of the best parts for me, because these two represent one of the main, like, themes of Cold Steel, you know, the commoners and the nobles, so I came to love them a lot. And I know Machias is not particularly, like, a popular character, but I actually liked him, you know, especially when Eustace is concerned. But even, like, as his own character, he wasn't too bad, except maybe in combat, but more on that at another point. But yeah, other than Eustace and Machias, I also really liked, at first, I really liked Gaius, because he had such, like, bro vibes. He didn't talk much. Honestly, he was barely a character in Cold Steel 1 and 2. Okay, maybe not 2, but 1. You could argue even after, like, Cold Steel 2 and, okay, let's put 3 and 4 aside for now, but you could argue in Cold Steel 1 and 2, he kind of wasn't as much of a character as the others, even though he did have a few moments. But I don't know, there's just something comforting about him. He's like that big brother that's always there for you, in a way, you know? Even if he doesn't talk much. So I really liked the guys as well. I liked Fee because Sleepyhead. I think that's about it. Like, in terms of characters that, you know, stood out to me and I might have taken a liking to them from the beginning. But then, you know, come Cold Steel 3 and 4, and man, Emma became top tier for me. But especially, actually, wait, no, not with 3 and 4. Emma became higher for me with Cold Steel 2. But 3 and 4 took her even higher than that. And I still stand by my opinion of, if they went for a Reen and Emma romance, that would have been infinitely better than giving you like a million choices, or kind of awkwardly, but also not kind of like trying to stick between Reen and Elisa. Like, either give him a love interest or don't do that. That's the way I look at it, at least. The reason that I think Estelle and Joshua worked so well is because, you know, they were like a canon couple. Because they had that advantage of, you know, like, things were set in stone for them. The writers were probably able to, like, just make them shine a lot more than they otherwise would have. Because imagine if Estelle could have, like, I don't know, romanced Joshua, Agate, Olivier. Okay, actually, maybe those guys are a little old for her, but you get what I mean. Like, you know, it would have been kind of unfocused. You don't know which one probably would have been the canon one. It might have had some consequences in the later games where you might have chosen somebody, but then, you know, the canon story chose somebody else. I don't dislike the bonding system, actually. But, you know, it does cause some, like, continuity issues. Like, it is what it is. It's nice, but it's also, you know, like I said, it kind of makes the writing waver a little bit. And yeah, so Emma I really liked in Cold Steel 2 going forward. Like, I thought she was amazing, and she only got better with 3 and 4. And as for the others, like, who do we have? Laura, Elisa. I don't dislike them, but I feel like they didn't stand out to me as much as the others. Okay, Laura definitely stood out more than Elisa for me. But yeah, like, I think my least favorite Class 7 member might be Elisa. Actually, if we're counting Crow and Milliam or Elisa, one of those two might be my least favorite. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. But even then, they have their moments. They really do. I didn't like Milliam in CS1 and 2. From 3 onwards, something changed. Like, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. But from CS3 going forward, I kind of liked her, actually. Like, she wasn't bad at all. And it's kind of interesting seeing, you know, like, initially you might not like a character, and then, you know, going through the games, something might change, and you'll just like them. All the characters, really, they have their moments to shine. And even with Cold Steel, they didn't neglect the fact that, you know, a lot of these characters should have their moments, and, you know, they definitely do. Okay, we're like at almost an hour and a half, so I want to kind of speed this up a little bit. So let's move on to Reverie. I guess we should talk about that separately, because it's a unique game in that it's like a 3-protagonist game where you play as Reen. Actually, I didn't talk about Reen at all. Okay, briefly talk about Reen, okay? Before we move on to Reverie. Reen is the third, or technically the fourth if we count Kevin, the fourth main protagonist that we ever see. And he has by far he's been the protagonist for the most amount of games compared to the others. I don't know if it's because he has like the most amount of games, or if it's just because like Cold Steel changed something in the writing. But I felt like his writing didn't hit as hard for me as like Lloyd or Estelle or Kevin. Even though, again, he does have his moments, he does like go through a lot in the games, and you know, it's horrible seeing some of the stuff that happened to him. And like, he has amazing moves as well, like, you know, him being a practitioner of the 8 Leaves, 1 Blade school. You know, just a lot of good stuff to him. Maybe it is because, like, the games, including him, like, they go for so long that his impact was kind of starting to falter a little bit, and then they would go up again and maybe falter a little bit. Like, it's kind of shaky. But he's still a good protagonist, even if he's my least favorite. And yeah, having said that, let's go to Reverie, where, again, Reen is one protag, Lloyd is another protag, and then we have a mysterious guy called C. Now, would you believe it? My favorite route was C in this game. Just because it felt like the most detached and different compared to the others. Even though, you know, reuniting and seeing a lot of the familiar faces was really nice, the C route, like, how do I say? It felt like it wasn't shackled by, you know, morality, you know, the power of friendship and all that stuff, until probably like way later. So maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much. It also was like a new cast of characters for the most part, so that was really nice to see. And yeah, seeing C, should I just say his name? I mean, this is the spoiler section, right? Yeah, like, playing as Rufus, dude, was amazing. Call me stupid, but I don't think I actually did who he was. I thought, wait, is this Cedric? Or is this Rufus? Or I couldn't tell. So when the reveal happened, I kind of was surprised. And man, it was a good reveal. Like, it was amazing. I loved it. Let me just say, gameplay-wise, this game is peak. In Trails into Reverie, you have a post-game kind of thing. In the other games, you don't have that. Like, if you finish the story, you're done. In Reverie, if you finish the game, you can jump back into, like, this Reverie corridor, where it's basically like a hub, where you can basically pick any party member from the story, put them in your party, and just go into this like roguelike dungeon. And it changes, or you can change it or reset it anytime you want. And there's challenges, there's like unlocks, you can get even more characters from this like gacha-like system, but with in-game currency. Don't worry about spending actual money. And there's a lot to it. Like, the replayability with Reverie is insane. And honestly, I don't know if we're gonna hit the same kind of gameplay peak again as Reverie. Maybe with the very last game. I can only imagine. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. Because I've heard that Kai is not like that. Kai is like also like a story-driven game where if you hit the end, that's it. So yeah, like the Reverie Corridor, honestly, one of the best things to happen to the Trails franchise. I love it so much. You can just jump back and play. And there's like a lot of room to experiment with, you know, different party members. There's a lot of surprise party members. And since we're on the spoiler section, Never expected to play as McBurn, but here we are. But yeah, like, Reverie was a nice little story. I really liked it. Again, especially the sea route. Yeah, there was just some, like, really good story moments in this one. And seeing a lot of the familiar faces was nice. I just wish, like, you know, the older characters, like Estelle and Joshua, for example, had more crafts to them. I think they only have, like, 2. Like, that's criminal. The other characters have like 5, 6, and yeah, it's just kind of sad. But yeah, putting that aside, let's go to the last arc, the Daybreak arc. Going into the Daybreak arc, I didn't know what to expect. It's a new beginning, and I played it for the first time about half a year ago in summer. I streamed the whole thing here on the channel. But I heard a lot of good things from a friend of mine, and I heard that Van was going to be a peak protagonist. And by God, they were right. Van ended up becoming one of my favorite protagonists in the whole franchise as well. I dare say, even though the list is not too big, he's top 3. So the top 3 would be Kevin, Estelle, and Van for me, but like not in that order. I don't know how I would order them, but Van is amazing. I honestly loved him so much going through Daybreak 1. Just seeing like how he talks, how he handles situations, his experience compared to, you know, a bunch of the other protags like Estelle and Lloyd, and even Reen, like at the beginning of their arcs. Going into Daybreak, you know, you're playing as an experienced protagonist who has already seen like a lot of shit, so to speak. He's a cool guy, like right from the get-go. He's a pretty cool guy. The cast that we end up, you know, having alongside Van, like Agnes, Aaron, Fairy, Rosette, Burgard, amazing cast. It kind of felt like Zero in a way, where the cast is like smaller, but more focused. I just didn't know what to expect from any of these characters, but Aaron ended up being one of the funniest characters in the whole franchise. I really like him. I didn't expect him to be a hothead, but he is. But also one of the funniest characters, so that's a really nice mix. Aaron was great. Agnes is good. She feels like a mix of Elisa and Ellie to me, like from the Crossbow games. And then we have Fairy. Fairy's pretty funny because, like, she comes from basically a Jaeger group, and she's never really seen the city life. So a lot of things and concepts to her are completely new. And because of that, a lot of hilarious dialogue comes from that. There's one that stands out, and I've seen it again a few days ago. Somebody was like talking about it somewhere, but she hears about the idea of real estate, right? So she's like, real estate? Is there fake estate too? And I'm like, oh, Fairy, you little goober. Her addition was great. And then we have Rosette. Rosette is amazing, even though she's like, you could argue she's kind of a simple character, but I don't know, there's just something about her. I really do like her. I think I like her more than Agnes, honestly. And then we have Burgard, oh, the legend. So we heard about this guy in Cold Steel, what was it? I think possibly even before that at some point, but The Roaring Lion is his title. And yeah, we heard about this guy prior to playing as him in Daybreak, but now he's under like a different identity. And that's something that I was kind of talking about, like characters getting killed allegedly, but then they just come back like it's nothing. Yeah, that is like one thing that just seems to happen a lot, especially in Cold Steel, where death doesn't really seem to be like a concern or like a pressing issue. So like at this point, if a character dies, like I would probably be like, okay, see you in like 2 games. They conditioned me to be like this, okay? They bring back everybody but not Luve. Anyway. Burgard was amazing, like regardless of what I said. Like his moveset is amazing. I love like, you know, hand-to-hand characters like Zin and like Burgard as well. His S-craft is divine, dude, like so good. But on the topic of divine as well, Van's moveset is amazing. God damn. Like the variety of moves he has, and like the fact that he uses like the stun caliber and also like a bit of hand-to-hand, amazing. Like Van, not only story-wise, but also gameplay-wise, he's earned his spot in, like, my top 3 protagonists. He's amazing. And I can't wait to see, you know, how he's, like, in Daybreak 2 as well. Even though I heard in Daybreak 2 he's not, like, as involved in some way, but we'll see about that. Daybreak was amazing. Like, I think it's one of the best, like, first game... One of the first... Wait, no, wording. One of the best first games in an arc. I would argue maybe this is like the top one even though like I'm a Sky fanboy. But Daybreak 1 is amazing. Like, man, it's so good. It definitely exceeded my expectations. And like, you know, seeing a lot of the shift away from... Do I want to say safety? Like in the Cold Steel games, to an extent, you felt very safe. Like, you know, nothing truly bad was going to happen. And Daybreak, there was a lot more like edginess, I guess, where there's like a morality itself was a whole theme, and you could actually kill a few characters in some parts, you know, stuff like that. I really like that about Daybreak, and I feel like the Trails games should not be afraid to, like, you know, kill off characters or be bloody in general. I feel like that only adds to the experience of anything and would make it stand out compared to other like JRPG games. And again, the fact that Sky the Third had some of the darkest shit ever is what made Sky the Third stand out to me. It's also what made it one of my favorite games in the franchise, if not my top favorite. So I really hope that going forward, they don't shy away from that kind of thing. Yeah, Daybreak was amazing. This was me yapping about my journey with the Trails franchise. I don't even know if I'm gonna upload this video, because I feel like an hour and a half of me yapping, I don't know if anybody's gonna enjoy that out there, but, you know, a few people asked for this to happen, so maybe somebody will enjoy it. Man, sometimes I feel like I want to talk even more about all of this, but I also don't want to make this like a 5-hour video, so I don't want to like inflate the video more than it really needs to be. Not that I really said more than I need to in this video anyway. But yeah, I feel like we're like at an hour and a half now. I feel like this is more than good enough. So yeah, the Trails games, a very special franchise to me. One that, again, at some point I would have said, like, I love more than Yakuza, which my channel is revolved around Yakuza, so that's really saying something. It has a lot of things about it that make it special, a lot of detail, a lot of care and love put into it. I don't think any newcomers will still be at this part, but if there is any and you don't care about spoilers, I just want to say, you know, give the series a try. You might actually end up thanking me for it later. We'll see about that. But yeah, you know, newcomers or veterans alike, if you've stuck it out until now, I just want to say thank you so much for giving the video the time of your day. I wanted to talk about Trails for the longest time, and I'm sorry this video is not like super edited and like, you know, scripted and all that, but I just wanted to let my heart speak. Sometimes I feel like just letting your passion speak is what you need for a video. And, you know, going like overboard with editing, scripting, and like footage, videos and all that, it might, like, first of all, it's gonna take a while. And second of all, there's something to me that is special about watching somebody just ramble, like without any kind of fancy editing. Which again, like I said at the beginning, King Recon inspired me to make this video. The guy literally just, like, you know, turned on the camera and you saw like the most passionate dude talk about like games he loves. That's all there is to it. And I found that really charming, so shout out to King Recon. And yeah, man, the Trails franchise, again, amazing. Give it a try if you haven't already. And if you're a veteran and you're just watching this, thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's going to be all for this video, you fellas. I hope this was something of an enjoyable watch. If you have any questions about the franchise, anything you're wondering about, if you're wondering about an opinion of mine on something in the franchise, please let me know. I'll try to get back to you. And with that said, I think that's going to be it. You guys take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.